Adam Kent, I'm the county councillor. I was elected a couple of years ago, and one of the first things I did was ask the residents what the problems were, and straight away they told me 70% of the stuff that came back was on crime. They were very concerned about it, so that's why we brought the Smart Water programme out. And then also there was the issue with the chaos outside the school, which is still a work in progress, but now we have a zebra crossing, we have enforceable traffic restrictions. The only thing we haven't got at the moment is people to enforce it, to actually do the tickets, but that's something I want to hope to solve if I get to the district council.
Yeah, I'm Derek Forsyth. I'm standing in Truman's Heath Ward, ex-military, 24 years, and progressed from there into general management in engineering. My main concern, of course, in this area is Majors Green, which is bordering on Solihull Council. The building houses coming on, and we're very, very concerned about the effect that's going to have on the roads through Majors Green. And also, one of the other issues I'm very concerned about is the speeding. Everybody tells me that don't worry about speeding, everybody speeds around the whole area. I'm interested in my ward and working with Adam with some really good ideas of how to curb the speeding. So that's my main ambition.
I'm Catherine Powell. I'm standing in Drake's Cross for both the parish and the district council. I live locally, and I've lived locally since I was very young. I came to Woodrush not so long ago, so I'm very similar to like some of you guys here. Yeah. I am a law student currently, and I plan to settle back down here with my family, etc. So my main aim is like promoting like the interests of not only just the young people in the area, but obviously the older residents too. But I can do that with my experience, and also to assist with like John Blewett's setting up of the mental health group to help with that, promote those sort of things.
Great. So I'm Sarah Hession. I'm currently a parish councillor. Also sit on the Parent Governors committee here at the school at Woodrush. And I'm on the exec board for the Neighbourhood Watch scheme across West Mercia, and I've been instrumental in helping set up a very organised Facebook pages and social media, and worked quite closely with John Campion over that time as well, who's Police and Crime Commissioner. And as I saw it when I came to parish, we didn't have a big team within the area, and when Adam stepped forward I said to him I'd help him, and I have John. And I think what we're doing is created a really strong team. So I'm standing at Withall East as district, and I'm also standing for parish as well at Grimes Hill. Okay.
Hi, Danny Bromwich. So I'm relatively new to Withall, and I've lived here for 2.5 years on the Parklands estate. And the Parklands estate has suffered crime, it's suffered with speeding, and it's a new community, but it still has the same issues. And I've tried to be the chair within that community to support them. And I've leaned on the current people who are here today to support me with that, and we've been very successful in supporting the community. Off the back of that, here I am today, looking to support the wider community as part of Withall West, and hopefully extend the support I've offered my local community to the wider community and get some good results.
A lot of people have raised with me. Obviously, you're aware there's a huge elderly population in Withall, so it's not
that was something that we had a lot of people asking about, because obviously with the hospitals now you can't just go to one, you are assigned to one. About getting to Redditch Hospital, someone was very concerned about elderly people being able to travel there. So I was just wondering what.
Well, I've been involved heavily on the transport side at Worcestershire County Council, and there's a big transport review this year. But one of the things that I want to push is much greater community involvement in public transport. So effectively, instead of taking perhaps the scraps off the table that district, county or national want to give us, I actually want to take on the agenda and say, right, this is what we want within Withall. Yeah. So accordingly, I've actually got a couple of corporate sponsors, businesses, that are willing to assist with funding for the community as well. So it's not necessarily something that would have to be raised by taxation or anything else. It just by going out and asking people, can you help? A lot of businesses want to give back, and this is an opportunity for them to give back. And what I'd ideally like to see is a frequent bus that just doesn't navigate the major roads through Withall, but all the little roads as well. So the elderly people that can only walk 50 or 60 metres can use it, as well as young people that want to get to Solihull. And the idea is to link us into the main transport hub. So not take us all the way to Birmingham or all the way to Redditch,
Yeah.
but take us somewhere that allows us then to get there.
Yeah.
So to the Maypole, to Shirley Station, to Whitlock's
Yeah.
End, up to Beckett's, which might then meet a Redditch community bus. And one of my other pet programmes that I'm pushing really hard at a county level is like an Uber for the community.
Yeah.
If you think about the cost of taxis, it's a couple of quid a mile. But there's a lot of elderly people that have just retired in Withall. Why don't we let them volunteer as like taxi drivers and have a similar app to Uber? But instead of charging £2.50 a mile, they charge the Stock Inland Revenue rate, which might be 45p. So it means you could get to Redditch Hospital for maybe £2 as an elderly person, £1 each if there's two of you in the car. And one of the great benefits of that then is that the person who's doing it is still making a little bit of money, because at 45p a mile, if they're doing 40 miles to the gallon, they'll get 16 quid for that gallon of fuel.
Yeah.
So a lot of insurance companies now will automatically cover you for community work. So for me, it's innovative ideas that address the problem without us having to resort to subsidising buses and seeing 52-seaters with just 4 people on.
There's been a lot of praise about the way you handled it, and I just wanted to know, is there any sort of update on where the houses are and
Well,
how it's been?
I mean, it was a major disaster, basically.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I look after something like 3,500 houses within the Withall division, and over 300 were flooded internally. That's 300 people that were displaced, and it was a major disaster. I mean, I was actually sat in a pub garden, to be honest, when the rainstorm hit, and I was over in Alvechurch, literally, and there was hardly anything rain-wise compared to what there was in Withall.
Yeah.
And straight away I was getting people phoning me up saying there was a problem. So immediately came over, and it was a scene of carnage. I've never seen anything like it. It was like a disaster zone.
Yeah, it was.
It was like somebody had opened a river and just let it straight through. I mean, I didn't even know there were streams in Withall of that nature, really. But what was great straight away, myself, Jeff Denaro, and also the cabinet member at Worcestershire, Tony Miller, got involved very early on, and I was out at like 11, 12 o'clock in my wellies, bailing out houses and helping out other people. But also, I was on the phone at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning to the leaders at Worcestershire County Council, making them seriously aware of how catastrophic this actually was. And I think then that shows you the strength of a team. Sarah was involved, I was involved, Jeff was involved, Tony Miller was involved. And between us, we managed to pull in all the people in power that could make that decision, because we'd got direct lines to them. Jeff is obviously leader at Bromsgrove District Council. I was able to go straight into the leadership at Worcestershire, and the response was fabulous. And it was a response that was dealing with the issues without recourse to health and safety specifically, or we've always done it this way. It was solving the particular problems for the people. And for me, the worst part was seeing the way the insurance companies treated a lot of the residents.
Yeah.
It was appalling. And what we were able to do then was call on Sajid's help. And I had a lady in Dias Road in her 80s, put in an insurance claim, the house was totally flooded, and they said, we're not paying out because your garden was flooded. You know, it's 80-something years old, lived in that house all the time. And fortunately, I was able to get in touch with Sajid's office. He called me back straight away, and within 30 minutes that claim was authorised, because he was able to phone up the chief executive. And then we set up the flood forum, we got involved in all of that, and the same councillors got involved, and really we did a hell of a lot of work. I mean, I wish I could turn the clock back and it didn't happen. But one of the things we do want to do moving forward is make sure that the waterways are fit for purpose for the future. And the big problem we've got within Withall is there's a thing called riparian ownership of the waterways. And what that means is you own the waterway in your garden and you're responsible for maintaining it.
Yeah.
Well, if you're 85 and short of cash, how the hell are you going to maintain it? I've currently got a resident in Withall with a sinkhole in their garden. You know, that I'm trying to find a way to get it repaired without her having to have recourse to thousands of pounds. So I think this is something probably, if we are successful in taking control of the parish, that I want to seriously look at as a way of what can the parish do to maintain the waterways. And by that, I mean keeping them clear of debris and everything else. So if there is a big rainstorm, it doesn't all cause a bottleneck at one particular point.
Yeah. That's great. So do you want to talk crime now?
Yeah,
So-
Yeah.
yeah. So, being quite short, I was hoping to get in the police force when I was young, and of course there was a height restriction, so I've always been interested in helping the community, especially with crime. Years ago I was a police special, and I've just kept an interest in crime and the police, the work the police do. And I noticed that we had a really strong safer neighbourhood team, but they weren't particularly being supported by the Independent Police and Crime Commissioner at the time. When John Campion came along, I thought, yeah, this guy means, you know, business, and he's prepared to get off his own backside and come out and talk to people, which he did and he still does. So, and then I started working with our Neighbourhood Watch team, who tended to be older residents that met every month and just looked after their own street. And I thought there's got to be a way of using social media and getting out to the wider community. So I started my own sort of Neighbourhood Watch type page, and then I'd gone to the AGM down at the police headquarters and met up with like-minded people, and we decided that we'd do something for the whole of West Mercia, which is where I'm off to tonight. And doing that, I've had quite a few people contact me to say, look, you know, you're doing stuff in the community, can we get involved, how can we get involved? And Danny was one of those that approached me about specifically Neighbourhood Watch. So street crime, it's not as high in, you know, as Birmingham obviously, but we do get the across-border crime from particularly Birmingham. And carjacking is a big concern for people. And the police obviously are very aware of that, and it's how do we prevent that on a more local level, but then how do we put the pressure on the car manufacturers as well. So it's a really big piece, and you've got to have a strong team around you, and whether that's local or whether we're using people like John Campion and Sajid to get to those manufacturers of vehicles as well. So Danny, if I bring you into the conversation, you approached me about Neighbourhood Watch, didn't you? And you've been very active on your estates.
So the key, as Sarah said, was about like-minded people. And I was on a new estate, and we had 6 victims of crime on that estate. And I was perplexed and frustrated by it. So what I wanted to do, on the basic principle, was understand the community, get to know the community. And therefore, if you know your neighbour, straight away you can identify people who shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
The key factor of that was then to go and speak to the right people. So Sarah Hessian, getting support actually from the Home Secretary at the time, because I did write him a letter because he was my local MP, and he put me in touch with the local police team, and straight away they come in to offer me support where I could. One of the key factors there is that we built a bond within my new community, and we reached out to the wider community to support Neighbourhood Watch. And there's lots of other ways to sort of tackle crime, and using innovation to support other crime measures, whether it be ANPR, which is one of the future aspirations, maybe better CCTV. And there's a big aspiration for the parish to look at getting extra police officers.
Yeah.
So there is the ability to fund this, which is going to support the community by having a visual deterrent, of course, but it's just got to be a greater way to support your community by getting police officers on the streets and giving the opportunity for community members to speak to them and get the cracking advice that the police officers we currently have.
That's great. Do you want to briefly answer that garden question? Or do you...
Yeah, no, I can answer that specific one.
Yeah.
I think they're talking about, so the parish have over the years awarded various best kept frontages, and that's been, whether it's a small plot, a big plot, whatever it's been. And the parish funds it, and it's really good, and we've actually had a local organisation promoting themselves but funding it as well. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't enter it, and that's the reason why the parish decided to just put it on hold this year.
No.
And they started to think about other ways to get the community involved, perhaps that would interest different types of people, maybe younger people, and they looked at Christmas lights and things like that. So the idea is there, it was put on hold,
Right, okay.
but the main reason is there aren't enough entries into the best kept frontages from the local community. Full stop, really.
Well, maybe that's something that perhaps you, Withall News, could promote, and if we can see the demand for it, then maybe that's something that we could actually do, because I'd like to see much better entrances into Withall, in terms of, you know, here's Drake's Cross,
Yeah.
Withall, part of Worcestershire, with gated entry to try and...
We were talking about that because when we started up and we spent ages trying to find the Whittle sign
Yeah.
to actually, obviously the whole point of our thing, it's local and we wanted the sign, and we found one with a really horrible sticker on it, and we
Yeah.
were trying to edit it off, and it was just we just wanted something that was
Well, that's what we want to do.
Yeah.
I think really when you're coming from the Maypole, you're coming from a very built-up area full of potholes and debris and litter and everything. And I want people to know they've arrived in Whittle,
Yeah.
they've arrived in Hollywood Hollywood, brilliant. We need a great big sign on top of one of the hills somewhere, don't we? Really? Maybe we need
Yeah.
a man-made hill and a big Hollywood sign or
Yeah.
something like that. But something that makes you feel proud to be part of that
Yeah.
community,
Yeah.
and then that helps to build that community spirit all the way through. So maybe if you can promote the best dressed garden competition,
Yeah,
and we get a few more entries, I don't see any reason why we couldn't
looking-
reinstate that. We could probably get one of the garden centres to sponsor it and help with that.
Yeah, we were looking at the station as well, because the station was asking to be sponsored or to be taken over by people that wanted to make it a more attractive railway station,
Yeah.
Whittle. And again, nobody really came forward. And it's a shame, really, because we could make it a much prettier
Yeah.
place. And I know some of the garden centres do promotion. But yeah, I think it's the fact that the older generation were looking at doing their gardens,
Yeah.
and the younger generation almost were out at work, don't have time, and it's bringing those people in, and
yeah.
I don't know, Britain in Bloom or something.
Well, and certainly trying to protect our verges. Because,
Well,
I
yeah.
mean, to be honest, they're an absolute mess. I think
Yeah,
they've
yeah.
become a semi-car park, to be honest, most of them.
Yeah.
It'd be great to actually see a good head of grass on some of the verges. So
Yeah.
we've got a few plans for that, which I'll probably save till after the election, really. But,
Yeah. We had a problem with that down our grove. We had to tarmac it because people there wasn't any grass there anymore, so we had to.
Yeah.
It is a pain. So do you want to go now talk about the speeding, because that was something we got a lot of
Yeah.
complaints about
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, about 3-4 years ago, I got involved with a group down Majors Green. We had 15 accidents in 18 months, wrecking people's gardens, fences, driving straight through some fences. We also had some of the assets, like telephone assets, damaged. So from that, we formed a group. We eventually got, one of the reasons we found out was actually the surface of the road. That was improved by the council after a lot of work. But the speeding actually increased as a result of the better
Yeah.
surface. Now, about this time, I thought, right, we need to have a look and see what we can do about speeding in our area. So I went round the residents, because we're really focused on residents. It's not a matter of me sitting as Mr. Forsyth thinking I want to do this. I went round the residents, this has gone back now, nothing to do with the current election, nothing. And I walked down Peterbrook Road and I asked every resident on there, have they got a problem with speeding? Every single person said yes. So I then approached PC Simon Albert, who we all know Simon, and discussed it with him and said, look, what can we do about the speeding initially? And he offered to come down and do speed checks. Now, we've been doing those last year, and we had one just two weeks ago. We did Peterbrook Road, Hansers Green Road, and we've now moved up to Trudens Heath Lane, again, as a result of speaking to the residents who are very concerned about coming off the drives or coming out of the end of their roads. Now, obviously, speed checking, mobile speed checking with a camera is short term. It's limited as well. And we all know that, because within 10 minutes, quarter of an hour, everybody's flashing and everybody's driving past at 30 miles an hour, giving a little wave or maybe something else. All right. So I've been talking obviously to Adam about this and seeing what can we do additionally to just speed cameras, because that was not going to solve the problem. What we've done initially is we've put these cables across the road and we've measured the actual speed as well as the volume of traffic. And what we've found is that the average speed on both the roads, and one that Adam had done previously actually in 2018 on Trudens Heath Lane, so all through the average speed, funnily enough, is 39 miles an hour. Now, that doesn't mean, it sounds low until you analyse it, that some people are coming off their driving over the cables 10 to 15 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So actually, we also found out that some of the cars and vehicles were travelling at over 70 miles an hour in that same area.
And if I can chip in here, one of the things we've got to remember is we've got problems with parking with outside the schools and parents delivering them, and they're delivering kids in cars and causing chaos outside the schools because they're frightened to let them walk or cycle to the schools. Now, the difference between hitting a child at 30 miles an hour and hitting a child at 39 is death. It's as simple as that. So it's a very emotive subject. I mean, we've been successful with the speed position that I got put in on the Ulster Road up by Davis's. And to be honest, myself and Derek at the moment are working towards more of those positions so that if they are going to do the cameras, you don't quite know where they are. But I think really some of this comes back to what Danny talked about earlier, which is ANPR and speed cameras. You've probably driven through Hockley Heath or into Birmingham now and seen the success of the average speed cameras, and they're absolutely brilliant. And one of the first things I thought about when I was elected was introducing these in Whittle. And then I got a quote, 120 grand for 2 cameras and 60 grand a year to maintain it. I thought it was outrageous. And I've gone on to Sajid and I said, we're being ripped off here. And specifically, I know, because it's part of an industry that I'm involved in, I could get an alternative solution for like €5,000 that would probably do the same job. So I think really we're able not just to get things working locally, but also regionally and nationally, because we've got that backup from the likes of John Campion and Sajid, where we can say, hang on a minute, this can't be right. There's got to be something we could do. And we'd love to see, everybody complains about it, oh, it's a tax-raising measure, etc. So why don't they let us have the money back so we can inject it back into the community? So if somebody does speed through Whittle, give us the money and we can spend it then on road improvements and everything else.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the residents are totally behind this, because we set up a group that we go out with the PC Simon Alba, we go out with them and we stand with them as a show of support. And some residents outside our group are critical of the fact that we do this. Now, they've got to live in Majors Green or they've got to live in Trumas Heath Lane to see that that's a joke and that we need to pursue this along the lines that Adam's speaking about. We thought of different other ideas, by the way, that putting in some sort of traffic calming measures. And to be honest, when you look at it, and you've got to think of the environment as well, you've got cars slowing down to go through a calming measure, and then they accelerate, so you're going to get a lot more environmental impact as a result of that. And also the noise factor of speeding cars, slowing and revving. So I think the ideas that Adam has put forward here is one we ought to pursue, and we will get 100% support from our residents for that.
Yep. Great, that's brilliant.
So yeah, we as candidates
We as a team.
are very passionate about promoting the community spirit. So we're blessed to live in an area where we have so many people with so many different skill sets, and we live in a world where everything's so 24 hours, so anxiety, mental health is like prime. So going to university, I experienced this firsthand, and having seen the effect it's had on my friends about having people and they people in the community to support them rather than services. It's been such a revelation, I'd say.
Yeah.
And so it's been started already with John Blewett setting up the Stronger Together mental health campaign, mental health group, and also with Vicky and Di setting up the Dementia Cafe. And so I think doing this sort of thing is so important in our community.
Yeah, I mean we've done a lot of work with John and his wife over there because it was something that we want to get a lot more people involved with in promoting it, and obviously the more people turn up, the more spaces he can.
I mean, for us, it's got to be the goal is to get the community involved in every decision.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the things we want to do, I mean, I don't know whether you've ever been to a parish meeting. Have you ever been to one?
No, I haven't.
Well,
not this one. I've been to other parish meetings.
Well, I can tell you now, it's like going back in time, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And what we want to do is, it's held in a drafty village hall. It's very formal. It's quite, scary if you've not experienced it before. And to be honest, what we'd like to do is, if we're lucky enough to get control of the parish, is bring those meetings to a more central location, maybe like the hub or anywhere else in the area, or move them around as well, and get the community involved to come in with maybe 30 minutes open questions.
Yeah.
Instead of a formal, you can speak for 3 minutes and we'll come back to you later. Let's have a discussion about what the problems are. Obviously, it can get heated at times. We've all seen that. If you've ever been to one of the PACT meetings here, it's been quite a challenge. But really, at the end of the day, it's about listening to the community, and we're here to serve the community. It's not us telling the community what they want. It's the community telling us what they want us to deliver.
Just to back that up, actually, Adam, down again in Majors Green, my area, Adam has chaired 2 meetings this year, one on the 9th of January and one a couple of months later. And we're addressing the issues of the additional building around our area, the impact on the traffic, and taking questions. On both those meetings, we had over 60 people attend the meeting. It was an open forum, people were putting questions forward. Sarah was there as well, giving her views as with different neighbourhood watch and other things. So, you know, we see the value of working as a team. And one of the things I would say personally is that I've been looking at being a councillor for some time, to be honest, because I couldn't see that we're getting anything done in our area. It was just dead. And then another lady who lives close by, she's standing as well, so that we can actually represent our area. And why I'm doing it is because when I become county councillor, being an ex-military person, leadership is key. And he gives the leadership. Then we, as a team, expertise we have Sarah, who's worked in a very senior position, Adam runs his own business, I'm an ex-general manager, we've got a director who's worked in housing, we've got a lady who worked in the bereavement services, we've got Catherine coming forward representing law. So I think
youth.
as a team, which we emphasise, a team, we'll be very strong to represent the residents.
If I could just say about youth, it's great to have somebody like Catherine on board from having that younger person involved. When you come into the school, the deputy head, Jay Barber, he actually is seeing what we're doing, and he's setting up his own council within the school and community workers. And I've been working with him about, well, how can we get the youth out in the community? Because I think there's not a big presence of the youth and seeing what they do. So we're certainly putting a programme together to start to get them out and involved, be that coming to the Dementia Cafe, be that supporting the residential homes by making Easter cards or Christmas or adding to the choir. But they're interested in doing litter picking at the park and lots of other things. So being in the privileged position I'm in as a parish person, parish representative, I'm the person that deals with the community club at the school, and I sit on the parent governors, and I'm purposely involved with the youth, and I've got a daughter here at the school as well. So there's a lot the youth can give, and I don't think we're majoring on that yet. And I think, especially with somebody like Catherine on board, and then there's a few people that have approached me, Sam and Hannah, their brother and sister, they actually say, how can we get involved, how can we help you? They've helped at carnivals and all sorts of things. But it's majoring on them as well, and I don't think anybody's done that properly yet. I'm really keen to do that.
Yeah, I mean, all of my children have gone through the Duke of Edinburgh Gold Award, really, which I've found absolutely brilliant, because from the age of 14 they're getting involved in community and charity work as part of that, and that's the sort of thing we'd like to push forward. We've got a very elderly population in Whittle. There's a lot of people here, and unfortunately they do lose partners and they end up on their own. And how great it would be if we can reinvigorate things that are similar to the Duke of Edinburgh Award, where we've got young people visiting those elderly people and fostering that level of respect and understanding what they've gone through and the difference in the time zones, how today we expect so much when a lot of the elderly people here have been through such difficult times. It's untrue. I mean, we've got several MBE award recipients here. We've got Betty Webb, who worked at Bletchley Park, 95 years old, or 96 this year, I can't. 96, she's still driving around, still there, and I mean, taking people to Bletchley. It's absolutely brilliant. I knocked on the door of a couple of residents here on Shorehurst Lane, actually. One's 92, the other's 88. They're looking after their next door neighbour who's 99. Still doing her own gardening. And I mean, this is fabulous. If the youth can go and talk to these people, then I think maybe the expectation, what we've got with mobile phones and everything else, and our levels of take, maybe that could change the whole mindset, really.
I think the key, what Adam's getting at, is we've got an eclectic community,
Yeah.
and it's growing. We've got new members coming to the community to bring their families up,
Yeah.
and we need to now seek a new opportunity of a modern way to deliver on the challenges of a modern community, and I think that's what this team can achieve.
Yeah,
There you go.
that's great. Anything else anybody wants to?
No, this is where you say it wasn't recording.